Okay, so I'm Mason the Brock Henderson. This is The Flash, Season 4, Episode 16, Run, Irish Run. Why did this show do this? It's already done it once previously with Caitlin, and now they're doing it again with Iris. This whole, oh, I'm not important to the team because I don't have powers. No, you are important to the team, and we know why. Caitlin, you're a chemist. You're very smart. You're very good at figuring things out. You know the human anatomy, and you're able to figure out a lot of metahuman anatomy as well. Iris, you've shown to be a very good leader, surprisingly so. You know, you're not like super science intelligent, but you do come up with some very interesting plans that kind of think outside the box. And on top of that, you do a very good job of making sure everyone is utilizing their talents to their full capability. She's shown to be very good at that. So, we have this episode similar to the one where Caitlin had to prove why she, Caitlin Snow, was just as important as being Killer Frost. We have this episode where Iris has to prove why she's important and that she's not scared to step outside. All for us to realize at the end, no, she needs to keep doing what she does best, being the leader. And it's just so dumb. Because we all know this. We all know what she's good for the team for. We all know what her point on the team is. We know all of this. At least if you're paying attention. And so there's this one episode. It's an interesting concept. You know, Iris gets speed abilities. Yeah, that could be pretty funny to see what could happen. You know, maybe she's not able to control it at first and things kind of go wonky. You know, now she's got to deal with having these powers and Barry has to deal with not having these powers. But they treat it as the story where Iris has to realize her importance to the team again, even though we already know what it is. And on top of that, God, the end of this episode just gets so heavy-handed with the Iris is super important, guys. She is so freaking important. I mean, Barry looks at her, the Kim guy, the guy that swaps powers. He's about to do it. He's like, "Are you sure you're both okay with this?" And Barry looks at her and says, "It's up to you. You're the Flash. They are your powers. You're going to tell me that you're going to leave it up to her?" Like, stupid. And then as they're all leaving and everybody's going their separate ways, Joe looks at Barry. He's like, "You know, Iris just created a tidal wave. I don't think you've ever created a tidal wave before." Because there's been no need for a tidal wave. How many times are you going to face some guy with a bunch of fire powers that creates a fire tornado that you need to extinguish with a tidal wave? Why is that ever needed? It's not. It's just something to, oh, guys, hey, Iris is super important, huh? Huh? She did something Barry hasn't ever done before. Ooh, she might be a better speedster than Barry. It's just so dumb. The writing is dumb. The story is dumb. It's just all ridiculously dumb. And for this show, for The Flash, to have an episode this stupid just boggles my mind. Because I realize a lot of people don't really like The Flash as much. I personally think they've done a very good job with it this season. It's been interesting. The villain has been interesting. The character stories have really been interesting. The only one that stood out as not as interesting is Ralph. And that's just because we haven't really learned enough about who he is, why he is the way he is. And even then, we've gotten a few stories as to why he might be this arrogant prick. So they've already started to give Ralph more of a personality, and it's working. You know, in this episode, I can kind of relate to him. You know, he's not necessarily treating it in the best way, but I understand where he's coming from because they've given him more of a personality, and it makes sense. He's scared for his life. He doesn't want to become one of those bus metas that gets, you know, their powers and abilities sucked away and then killed to be taken over by DeVoe. That's a completely understandable reaction. Now, his reaction is a little too paranoid, a little too mean-spirited, but that kind of fits with how he's been acting most of the season, so it fits his character. With Iris, it doesn't make any sense why she would be all like, "Oh my gosh, I just don't feel important to the team, and I don't feel like people realize how important I am to the team." And, you know, Ralph getting pissed at her because she's trying to talk to him and he's upset and he lashes out and says, "You don't understand what it's like to be in the field," even though she completely understands because she's been doing this for a long time, longer than you have, idiot. And then she just reacts like, you know, he might be right. What what if I am scared? And she's talking to Barry at the end. She's like, I wasn't trying to prove anything to Ralph, but to myself. Why? What in your mind made you go, Ralph has a point? Ralph has a point. Stupid. So, with that being said, yeah, didn't really get into this episode as far as that's concerned. Just the premise could have been interesting if they handled it in more of a funny way. But instead they treated it like something super serious, like, oh yeah, we need to discuss Iris having importance to the team. We need to make sure everyone knows she is important to the team. We already know this. So to have an episode based around it is just redundant. So really dumb there. The other story that is kind of interesting, and I'll be curious to see where it's going from here on out, is Harry decides he's going to try to rebuild the Thinker's cap that made him super smart. And so he wants to try to increase his brain activity so that he would be able to challenge the Thinker in a mental battle and maybe be able to predict the future and predict what's going to happen next with the Thinker. Unbeknownst to them, and this is one thing that it is something that makes a lot of sense. They didn't realize that the Thinker, his body was deteriorating because of all the dark matter that he put into himself. They don't realize that yet. At least I don't think they do. If they do and they're not considering that, then that's dumb. But I think the Thinker did a very good job of hiding the fact that he was dying. And that's why he's needing these new bodies, and I guess these new powers as well, is because he needs to keep himself alive. And so these healthy bodies manage to extend his life expectancy because the dark matter is still killing him. So I do like the fact that they're not really focused on that. Harry just looks at it and says, I can become as smart as him. Why wouldn't I do it? Does make sense. But of course, Cisco is the only one opposed because he sees the danger in it. He sees the possibility of dark matter becoming dangerous to Harry's health. And so I like the fact that he does sort of stick to his guns for a little bit. But even at the end, when he agrees to help, because I kind of figured he would agree to help, he still sticks to his guns and says, no, we're not using dark matter. I'll help you with your whatever it's called. Can't even remember what they called it. But I'll help you with this, but we're not using dark matter, which is good, because I've seen in the past, like you look at Supergirl and how Jimmy wanted to become a vigilante and Wynn was like, no, I'm not helping you. This is dumb. Perfectly made sense. But eventually Wynn was like, you know what? Fine, I'll help you, okay? But look, we're going to do it on my terms. And then eventually Jimmy stopped doing it on his terms. He's like, okay, fine, I'll help you even though you're not doing it on my terms. And it's just kind of like Wynn kept backing down even though he was right. He's making these good points. He's like, no, we're not doing this. This is dumb of you. All those were very good points, but then eventually just said, nah, never mind. I don't care anymore. I'll just help you out. It was just kind of like, really, you're going to back down? You're going to let him put himself in danger because of this? With Cisco, he stood his ground and said, no, we're not doing this. But eventually he saw that Harry was going to do it regardless, so he's like, okay, fine, but we're not using dark matter. Like, there's no way I'm going to do that, which is good because it fits with his character. He sees Harry's putting himself in harm's way anyway, so why not be there to sort of make sure he doesn't go too far and keep him from using dark matter? Perfectly makes sense. Ultimately, Harry does use his cap twice in this episode. First time is how to stop the fire tornado. He helps Iris realize I need to create a tidal wave. And then he uses it at the end to try to figure out who the last two bus metas are. But even then, he's using it a little too much, and so Cisco can see it's really affecting his brainwaves already, even without using dark matter. So pretty interesting to see what's going on with that. But he does manage to come up with the last two names of the bus metas. I am disappointed not to know either of these bus metas. It's just kind of like, really, we're not gonna have it be somebody that we already know has all of a sudden gotten bus meta powers. But anyway, I assume he said the two names. I assume the comic book fans who know all of these like characters, they heard that maybe one of the names and just like, oh, I know who that is. I don't know who either of these people are, but now they know who the final two bus metas are. They managed to get Kim, I think they're calling him Melting Point, managed to get him on the team to help out with DeVoe. So that is something interesting as well. So yeah, that part of the story is still very interesting, but I just hate that we had to take this detour down this really dumb rabbit hole that really just led to nothing except a bunch of, oh, Iris is important points. So yeah, it was really dumb. Didn't really like this episode as much, but the good news is the main story has still got my interest. So this one bad episode isn't going to like completely throw me off, or I'm like, oh, I'm done watching this show. You know, like Arrow or Supergirl, when they have dumb episodes, I don't care. And the main story doesn't get me to care either, so I just kind of watch knowing I'm getting myself into a bunch of pain. So, yeah, that being said, that's all I have to say about this episode. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe, future Flash reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.